It's Monday, November the 24th. Normally I do the fishing reports on Wednesdays, but as you've noticed, I haven't done one in about 3 weeks. We've had OMTT Championship, Lake of the Ozarks, Anglers in Action at Grand, and then this past week I was at the Missouri Invitational Bass and Golf Fishing event. So I've been gone quite a bit, but I have got to fish the last 3 days, and I got to fish a couple days before I went to Lake of the Ozarks last week. But a couple things I want to talk about before I get into the fishing report. You want to put this on your calendars, and you can go to Extreme Outdoors and get a flyer on it, or go to Table Rock Lake Fishing. You'll also see one there. But it's an event that's going to be at Extreme Outdoors December the 13th and 14th. There's going to be 8 national pros there. This is a pretty big deal. You know, they've had events like this in Springfield before, but I don't know if we've ever had one down here in our region where you've got 8 national pros for 2 days, going to be doing seminars. They're going to be giving things away, I think, to the first 250 people. But you got Drew Gills, one of the hottest young anglers out there. Justin Hamner won the Classic a couple years ago. Dakota Ebeer. Michael Neal catches them absolutely everywhere. Hunter Shryock, Worldwide, James Watson, Mike McClellan, and Wyatt Mahler. And Wyatt, if you fish locally here, everybody knows Wyatt Mahler. He's another one of them that's going to be an upcoming superstar, I believe. So that's at Extreme Outdoors, but they got a schedule of who's speaking when on December the 13th and 14th. So put that down in your calendars. That's a must-attend deal. It's going to be an awesome event. And also, with Thanksgiving coming up this week, got a bunch of Black Friday sales. If you're in the market for batteries, I was looking last night at Pro Guide Batteries. They got a bunch of Black Friday sales, some awesome sales, especially if you're thinking of changing over to a lithium setup with a new charger and everything, or just, single battery here or there. But you need to check out the sales that they got. But as far as the lake level, it's 9:15 3/4. Water temperature kind of depends where you're at. It's low 60s for the most part throughout the mid-lake area. And you get up in the upper river arms and you'll see some mid-50s. You get up far enough, you'll even see some high 40s. So the fish are finally, I believe, starting to get into a fall pattern. The tournament weights haven't been that super, I think they've been good weights, 16, 17 pounds, but it's been dropping off pretty quick. But there's been a lot of, say, 13 to 15 pound, stringers being caught. But how I've been catching some of my fish, like I said, I think they're starting to get into a fall transition. And I'm seeing a lot of bait back in the deeper coves, which is kind of normal for November and December, and then them fish start to follow them back in there. If you're a live scoper, if you like to scope, there's bait pretty much all over the lake, out in the middle, over a lot of them deep channels. You got to spend your time out there, cruise around on your trolling motor, and some of the bait's pretty high in the water column. You'll see some 8 to 10 foot down, and you'll see some down at 40 or 50. Now, some of the deeper fish I've been catching on points, with the thermocline gone, some of them are as deep as 50 foot, but it seems like that 30 to 40 foot has been the best for me, whether it's on a drop shot. And I'm starting to catch some on jig and spoons. If I can find a big group of them, I can get them fired up on like a 7/8 ounce white Dixie Jet, or sometimes I'll go down to a 1/2 ounce Dixie Jet, and even like a 7/8 ounce Rapala ice fishing jig. I think that bite's just going to get a lot better. Like I said, there's a lot of bait back in the pockets, and you got to cruise around with the bait, and you'll see some of these fish inside the center of the balls of bait or underneath them. And one thing, when you find a group of bait that stays pretty still, what's awesome on like my live scope mount, I can spot lock down and just scan around as the bait's moving. without, especially if the wind's blowing. A lot of times if you don't have it on a turret like that, when you spot lock, your live scope's going crazy, so it's hard to stay in one spot. But when I get into a deal where I can set in one spot, the turret, my live scope mount is just absolutely awesome. I will admit sometimes when I'm going down the bank cranking, I like it on my trolling motor. But for the most part, when I'm out there deep fishing like that, around bait and shad, and the fish are staying relatively still, it's a pretty awesome tool to have. And, a lot of those fish out there, some of the bait as well is high in the water column, and I'm taking either a little minnow, on a 1/4 ounce ball head. I use a lot of that Queen City, the tungsten one, and I believe Bass Pro's also got some that are a lot cheaper. That is XPS brand, 1/4 ounce head, or if they're deeper, I'll go as heavy as a 5/8, sometimes even an ounce jig head. But and there's also a crankbait bite, and I don't even think we've got near the beginning of our crankbait bite. When that water starts getting down consistently into the mid 50s to the 50s, it's time to throw your favorite crankbait, whether it be rock crawler, wiggle wart. Mine's pretty much a rock crawler, but wiggle warts will work good. The Strike King series will work as well. But whatever your favorite crankbait is, catching a few fish on them now when the conditions are just right. It seems like you got to cover a lot of water to do that. But I think as that water cools down, that crankbait bite's going to get a lot better. And also, spinnerbait. Once them fish start moving up there a little shallower, you catch them on a Ned rig, jig, spinnerbait, just, pretty much whatever you want to throw whenever they move up there shallow. But right now it seems like you got to have wind and clouds for the best crankbait bite. I'm still catching a lot of Kentuckys out there on the main lake, gravel points. Seems like the best ones got a steep drop, and I'm catching them there, on the jig, ice fishing jig, and a drop shot. Now I'm catching some football jig fish as well, and my kind of go-to football jig, it's a 5/8 ounce jewel. It's kind of hard to beat. I can fish it from 5 feet to about 30 feet. If I start getting deeper than that, I'll pick up a 3/4 or 1 ounce. But a PBJ, a green pumpkin purple, and any kind of twin tail craw. I'm using a Strike King baby rage craw on this particular bait here. But these fish seem to be like on bigger rock, on channel swings, bluff ends, where it's got a kind of like a hard roll off where you can set in, 35, 40 feet, cast up into about 20. It seems like a lot of the fish are on that side of the slope, going down. That's been probably one of my most consistent way to catch keeper fish is the football jig. A lot of the drop shot and spoon fish, I'm having to catch a lot of short fish to catch a keeper, but it's, it's action. So I think as the water cools down, everything's going to get, a lot better, and especially, the crankbait bite. And like I said, bait's already back in the coves, and usually I like to look for like, little ants, big ants, even the pockets down by the dam, Indian creeks. I mean, those are great creeks to either live scope or just idle around and find the bait, and you catch them on a minnow, drop shot, or a spoon. So I think we're just now getting into that winter pattern. And don't forget about they're calling it the Winter Seminar Bash. I think it's going to be an awesome event to get to be able to talk to these guys one-on-one. They'll be doing seminars on different baits. Great time to pick up some knowledge from these guys. So hopefully till next week, I'll get back on track and do it next Wednesday. Good luck, good fishing.